I love Versailles. I wrote King of the World about the life of its creator, Louis XIV, King of France.
This July 2024, 4 Olympics events are being held at Versailles. Dressage, that is horse gymnastics, synchronizing the movements of horse and rider as King Louis XIV did so well. Eventing, that is show jumping, and Louis XIV's speciality of cross-country riding. Pentathlon, swimming, fencing, running, horse riding and shooting. And finally, the marathon.
The king would certainly have been a gold medalist.
Louis XIV lived in Versailles for 40 years after 1661. He practiced in private the gym of the day, that is ballet, with his own ballet teacher, and danced in court ballets in public from the age of 7 to 30 with perfect mastery, often 5 hours at a time. Louis XIV was not only a brilliant young Olympic athlete, he also saw himself as one of the Olympic gods. Like the founder of the modern Olympics, Monsieur de Coubertin, Louis XIV lived in the classical past. His palace and park of Versailles contain over 1,000 sculptures of the gods of Olympus and classical heroes. On the ceilings of Versailles, Louis XIV is represented as Jupiter, king of the gods, Mars, god of war, Apollo, patron of the arts, or Hercules, the greatest athlete in Greek mythology. A master of horse riding who rode over 30 miles from Versailles to Paris and back, he himself became one of the finest athletes and best shots of the day. Versailles was a city of horses as well as men. As people said at the time, the King of France's horses were better housed than most monarchs in Europe. He practically lived on his horse when he was a young man. Taming a horse was an expression of power, both for Louis XIV and for his hero Alexander the Great. The king was often painted on horseback, since perfect control of your horse, doing movements like pirouettes or tourette, showed perfect control of his kingdom through skill and domination. Horses were part of the majesty of power. Louis XIV organised a huge horse ballet coordinating the movements of 665 horses and horsemen on the 5th and 6th of June 1662 to the sound of music in the middle of Paris. But Louis XIV made the mistake of putting the magnificent stables where he kept 700 horses in front of his palace, not behind it. 100 years later, on 5th of October 1789, taking the same route as the Olympics marathon this August 2024, a revolutionary Paris crowd attacked Versailles and overran the stables before they invaded the palace. Because of the king's fatal design flaw, putting the stables on the Paris side of Versailles instead of behind the palace, there was no escape for his descendant, King Louis XVI. The Paris crowd blocked the royal carriages about to leave and dragged the king back to Paris, brandishing his guards' heads stuck on pikes, along the precise route of the marathon runners this August on the last days of the Olympics. As the programme says, the marathon runners will be following in the footsteps of the Women's March of 1789, which shaped the history and values of contemporary France. Versailles proved a trap as well as a showcase for kings. In reality, the Women's March, far from shaping the values of contemporary France, was a cover for a military coup by the Paris National Guards, whose troops escorted the women to Versailles and back. It was an example for the military coup 10 years later by which Napoleon Bonaparte seized power and destroyed the Republic. Napoleon said that he found the crown of France lying in the gutter and picked it up with the tip of his sword.